My family ignored me after my house burned down. For years later, they want my help because I built a successful business. When my house burned down 4 years ago, I thought it was the worst day of my life. I lost everything, my clothes, my furniture, my car, even the old photographs I thought I'd be able to pass down someday. I remember standing there in the cold night air, watching the flames eat away at the only place I called home. My hands were shaking as I typed a message to my family group chat. The house is gone. I'm alive. I'm okay. I wasn't asking for money or sympathy. I just needed to let them know I was still breathing. The chat showed "seen." And then, silence. No replies. Not a single "are you safe?" or "do you need a place to stay?" Just empty space where family was supposed to be. 4 years of silence. In the weeks that followed, I waited. I told myself maybe they were busy, maybe they thought I didn't need help, maybe I was just overthinking. But the truth was sharper, no one cared enough to check in. For 4 years, I rebuilt my life completely alone. I slept in my car for months until I saved enough to rent a dingy studio in Cleveland. I worked 2 jobs, often 16-hour days, while trying to figure out what to do with myself. I cut ties with people who only drained me. That's when I started thinking about starting my own business. It wasn't glamorous at first. I began with a small cleaning and maintenance service, just me, some borrowed tools, and a lot of stubbornness. I scrubbed floors, hauled trash, painted walls, anything to keep the lights on. Slowly, contracts started coming in. Then I hired 1 person, then 2. Within a couple of years, my company was handling commercial spaces, offices, even government contracts. Now, 4 years later, I own one of the fastest-growing service businesses in Cleveland. I have over 40 employees, a warehouse, company vans with my logo, and a client list that keeps me booked months in advance. I should have been proud, and I was. But something still stung. Not a single family member had been part of my journey. The sudden love. Funny how success changes everything. After years of silence, my phone started buzzing again. My mother, who hadn't so much as called me after the fire, suddenly left me voicemails dripping with concern. "We miss you, honey. You should come visit, it's been too long." My cousins, who used to laugh at me for wasting time in Cleveland, started commenting on my social media posts, "So proud of you, bro," followed by the classic, "We should hang out sometime." And then came the requests. My uncle wanted me to invest in his failing restaurant. My sister hinted that I should help her with a down payment for a house because I was doing so well now. My mother even asked me to cover some of her medical bills, despite the fact she ignored me when I literally had nowhere to sleep. It was like I had suddenly become the family ATM. They didn't want me. They wanted what I had built. The confrontation. One night, I finally snapped. I sent a message to the same family group chat where I had once begged for acknowledgement. When my house burned down, I wrote here that I was alive. Not one of you answered. Not one of you called. For 4 years, I ate alone, I worked alone, I cried alone. I didn't hear from anyone, until I made something of myself. Now, all of a sudden, you want to visit, call, borrow, and reconnect. You didn't want me when I was broken. You don't get me now that I'm strong. Asterisk. The chat blew up with excuses. We didn't know how bad it was. You could have asked for help. Don't be so dramatic, we're family. But I wasn't buying it. If you can ignore someone in their lowest moment, you don't deserve to stand next to them in their highest. The choice I made. Now I have a new family, my employees, my friends in Cleveland, the people who stood by me when I had nothing. We celebrate birthdays together, we barbecue in the summer, we look out for each other. They didn't care about my bank account, they cared about me. As for my biological family, I keep them at arm's length. Polite, but distant. I'll never forget the silence after the fire. And I'll never let them rewrite history to make themselves look like the loving family they never were. My business is thriving, my life is peaceful, and for the first time in years, I feel like I truly belong somewhere. But the lesson still burns. Sometimes the people you expect to be there for you are the first to disappear when the smoke rises. And when you rise from the ashes without them, that's when they suddenly remember your name. After I sent that blunt message in the family group chat, the one where I reminded them they ignored me when my house burned down, things got complicated. The guilt tour. At first, they bombarded me with apologies and excuses. My mom cried over the phone, telling me that she didn't realize how bad things were. My sister claimed she thought I was being strong and didn't want to bother me. My uncle said he had family stuff going on and couldn't reach out. But after the apologies came the guilt trip. We're still family. Don't shut us out. Money comes and goes, but blood is forever. You're acting like a stranger. And then, out of nowhere, they decided to visit me in Cleveland for the weekend. I didn't invite them. They just told me they were coming. The visit. They showed up like a storm. My mom, my sister, and 2 cousins pulled into my driveway in their SUV, all smiles and hugs, as if the last 4 years had never happened. They brought gifts too. Cheap bottles of wine, a houseplant, and a half-stale cake. For about an hour, it was civil. We sat in my living room, they complimented my house, asked me about my business, and acted overly impressed like tourists gawking at a monument. But then the questions started. So how much are you making a month now? Are you hiring? Maybe I can get a job without needing a degree. Could you help us start something like this back home? You should buy Mom a new car, she deserves it after all she's done. That last one nearly made me choke. Done. She hadn't even texted me back the night my house went up in flames. The tension explodes. I tried to be polite, but after a while, my patience cracked. I reminded them, again, that they didn't call, text, or check on me for 4 years. That when I was homeless, broke, and broken, I didn't get so much as a message. My sister snapped back with, "You never asked for help." To which I replied, I shouldn't have to beg my own family to care that I'm alive. That's when things got ugly. My mom accused me of holding grudges and forgetting where I came from. One cousin muttered that I was selfish for not helping family when I clearly had the money. Another joked, "Don't forget who changed your diapers." I finally told them to leave. Aftermath. The next morning, I found out one of my cousins had snooped around my office while I was outside grilling with the others. He went through my desk drawers and even tried to peek at my financial files. Luckily, my office manager called me right away because the security cameras caught it. That was the last straw. I cut the visit short, told them I didn't trust them, and asked them to leave Cleveland immediately. They left angry, throwing guilt-laden lines like, "You'll regret this when you're older and alone." Where I stand now. It hurts, Reddit. I'll admit it. There's still that part of me. The lonely kid who lost everything in a fire, that wants my family to love me for me, not for my bank account. But the truth is clear, they see me as a walking wallet. Since their visit, I've blocked most of them. My mom still tries calling, but every conversation circles back to money or favors. It's exhausting. The irony? My employees, my friends, even my neighbors here in Cleveland, they've become more of a family to me than my actual blood. When we have barbecues or staff dinners, there's laughter, warmth, and genuine care. No hidden agendas. No conditions. Just love and respect. So that's the update. They came. They begged. They snooped. And they left. I don't think they'll stop trying, but now I'm prepared. The silent period. Before the storm. After I told my family to leave my house, things went quiet for a while. My phone barely buzzed, no texts, no calls. I thought maybe they got the message, that I wasn't going to be their personal ATM or business investor. But silence wasn't acceptance. It was planning. The rumors start. It began with whispers. A client I've worked with for over 2 years asked me if it was true that my company was under investigation. I laughed it off at first, but then another client hinted that my family told them I was shady with money. Turns out my own relatives were calling people they found through my LinkedIn and company website, claiming I stole money from them and refused to pay it back. My company wasn't legitimate and had lawsuits pending. I used dirty money to start the business. They were literally trying to destroy my reputation, in the same city where I clawed my way up from nothing. The legal trick. The worst came 2 weeks later. I got served with a fake loan agreement my uncle filed in small claims court. He claimed I had borrowed $25,000 from him to start my company and never repaid him. For the record, I never borrowed a single cent from anyone in my family. Not then, not ever. I had bank records, credit reports, and tax filings to prove it. But do you know what it's like sitting in a courtroom, watching your own uncle stare you down, lying under oath, just because he thinks you're rich enough to pay anyway? It's surreal. Thankfully, the judge wasn't an idiot. My lawyer shredded the claim apart in under 10 minutes. The case was dismissed, and my uncle got a warning about filing fraudulent claims. Still, the damage was done. My trust in them hit absolute zero. The breaking point. After court, my mother called me crying, saying I was ripping the family apart and that I should just pay something to make peace. That was the moment I realized she wasn't on my side, she was on theirs. When your own mother suggests giving hush money to the people who tried to ruin you, you can't ignore that. So I made a choice. I blocked them all completely. I cut ties with every cousin, uncle, and sibling. I told my mother I loved her, but until she respected my boundaries, she was out of my life too. The aftermath in Cleveland. The ironic part? Their little smear campaign backfired. When clients realized my own family was spreading lies, they sided with me. Some even told me they respected me more for rising above it. My employees rallied around me too. One even said, "Boss, you built this without them. You don't need them now." And she was right. For the first time, I felt free. No more waiting for love that would never come. No more hoping they'd change. Just me, my business, my chosen family here in Cleveland. Final thoughts. If there's one thing this entire saga has taught me, it's this: blood isn't thicker than loyalty. Family can betray you deeper than strangers ever will, because they know exactly where to stab. But family can also be chosen. And mine now is made up of people who stood by me when I had nothing, not people who only showed up once I had something to take. I don't know if I'll ever forgive my family. Maybe one day, when they stop seeing me as a bank account and start seeing me as a human being. But until then, they're strangers. The media smear. It started small, a local gossip Facebook page. Someone made a post about how a certain Cleveland businessman made his fortune by scamming his own family. It didn't name me directly, but it didn't have to. The details were specific enough that anyone in the community who knew me could put 2 and 2 together. Then came an article in a small online news site, clearly fed by my relatives. It painted me as a cold, greedy man who abandoned his family and stole inheritance money. The article quoted my sister, by name, saying, "We were there for him when he lost everything, and now he won't lift a finger to help us. He's heartless." When I read that, I laughed so hard I almost choked. They were there for me. Where? In the 4 years of silence after my house burned to ashes. But it didn't end there. The story got shared, commented on, and twisted further. Suddenly, strangers were messaging my business page calling me a fraud. The IRS scare. Not long after, I got a letter in the mail from the IRS, an audit notice. My stomach dropped. I run my company clean, but the word audit is enough to make anyone sweat. Guess who filed the anonymous tip that triggered it? My uncle. He literally bragged about it to one of my cousins, who couldn't resist telling someone else, and word eventually reached me. He claimed I was hiding income and laundering money through my business. For weeks, I barely slept. Every night I combed through receipts, invoices, and tax filings with my accountant. Thankfully, everything checked out. The IRS wrapped up the audit, found nothing wrong, and closed the case. But that wasn't the point. They didn't want justice. They wanted to drown me in stress. The breaking point. I realized then that my family wasn't just greedy. They were vindictive. They couldn't stand the fact that I succeeded without them. And worse, they couldn't stand that I refused to bend. One evening, after a particularly long day, I sat in my office with my senior manager and said, if I don't stop this now, they'll never stop. They'll keep trying until I'm broken. So, I took action. My countermove. 1. Legal protection. I had my lawyer send out cease and desist letters to every relative involved in spreading lies, including my sister, who gave the interview. It spelled out that if they continued defaming me, I'd take them to court for slander and libel. 2. PR transparency. Instead of hiding, I went public on my business page. I wrote a long, honest post explaining how my house had burned down, how my family ignored me, and how they only resurfaced when I built success. I didn't trash them by name, I simply told my truth. The response? Overwhelming support. Clients, employees, and even strangers left comments like, "We've got your back." My business didn't lose contracts, it gained them. 3. Security upgrade. After the cousin snooped through my office, I had cameras installed everywhere, hired a security firm, and even restricted building access to certain staff. If my family thought they could walk into my life again, they'd find nothing but locked doors. My mother's role. The hardest part in all of this was my mom. She kept calling, begging me to fix things with the rest of the family. When I told her they tried to ruin me through the IRS and the media, she said, "They're just hurt. You need to be the bigger person." That was the final knife twist. Even after everything, she still chose them over me. I hung up and told her not to call again until she could respect my boundaries. She hasn't called since. Where I am now. It's been months since the IRS audit closed and the smear campaign fizzled out. My family tried everything. Guilt, lies, lawsuits, gossip, government scare tactics, and still failed. Meanwhile, my company has doubled in size. I just opened a second office. My employees threw me a surprise party for my birthday, complete with a banner that read, "The Real Family." I nearly cried. Because that's the truth, family isn't who shares your blood. Family is who shows up when your house burns down, when your bank account is empty, when you're barely holding it together. I found that in Cleveland, not in the people who abandoned me. Final words. If any of you reading this are clinging to toxic relatives out of guilt, let this be proof. Cutting them off doesn't make you cruel. It makes you free. I used to think losing my family was the greatest tragedy. Now I see it was the fire that cleared the ground for something stronger to grow. And I promise you this, I will never let them set fire to my life again. The last attempt. About a month ago, I got a letter in the mail. Not an official one, not legal, just handwritten. It was from my sister. She wrote about how life is too short for grudges, and how family should always stick together. She admitted that they handled things badly, but then, of course, slipped in a line about how I should help out mom more, because she's struggling. I didn't get angry. I didn't cry. I didn't even draft a fiery response. For the first time, I felt nothing. I folded the letter back up, put it in a drawer, and went on with my day. A strange peace. There was a time when I would have killed for an apology. A time when I would have stayed up all night replaying old memories, wondering why my own family didn't love me enough to show up. But now, I don't need it. I have my life in Cleveland, my business, my friends who've become family. I host Sunday dinners at my place, laughter, food, music. We lift each other up. That's what real family looks like. My biological family? They're just strangers who share my last name. Nothing more. What I've learned. 1. Silence speaks louder than words. When my house burned down and they stayed silent, that told me everything. 2. Success doesn't fix broken bonds. If anything, it exposes them. 3. Family is chosen. And I've chosen mine. The end. So this is where I close the book. My family can gossip, write letters, spread stories, I don't care anymore. They don't get to touch the life I've built. The fire destroyed my house, but it also burned away the illusions I had about my family. What rose from the ashes was something stronger, independence, peace, and a real sense of belonging. I'm done chasing people who never chased me back.